Beneath the scorching sun and amidst the endless sands of the Egyptian desert, there lies a legacy that has baffled historians and captivated dreamers for millennia. Ancient Egypt, a civilization so advanced, so mysterious, that it continues to haunt our imaginations to this very day. The pyramids, the Sphinx, and the immortalized figures of pharaohs, symbols of a world both awe-inspiring and shrouded in secrets. For over 3,000 years, the Nile River's life-giving floods nourished one of the greatest civilizations ever known. From the birth of the first pharaoh to the fall of Cleopatra, Egypt stood as a beacon of power, innovation, and mystery. But what lies behind this enduring empire? Who were the masterminds behind the creation of the Great Pyramids? How did the ancient Egyptians unlock the secrets of medicine, mathematics, and astronomy long before the modern world even dreamed of them? And why, despite their extraordinary accomplishments, did this mighty civilization collapse into legend? Were the pharaohs mere rulers, or were they gods in human form, destined to lead their people to eternal glory, or to an untimely fall? Join us as we unravel the mysteries of ancient Egypt, the land where the past speaks to us across the millennia. From the first dynasty, when Egypt was united under a single ruler, to the spectacular heights of the New Kingdom, where Egypt's power spread across continents, this is the untold story of a civilization that forged its place in history. Stay with us as we journey deep into the heart of Egypt's incredible story, a journey that will reveal secrets hidden for thousands of years, and take you face to face with a civilization whose echoes still resonate in our world today. Before we dive deeper, let me know where you're watching from, and suggest the next story you'd love to watch. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It really helps this channel grow. The story of Egypt begins thousands of years ago, in a time when the world was vastly different from the one we know today. Around 3100 BCE, two distinct and powerful kingdoms, Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, coexisted along the banks of the mighty Nile River. These were no mere tribal factions, but rich and thriving regions, each with its own culture, traditions, and rulers. Yet, what would bring them together to form a unified state that would become one of the most influential civilizations in history? At the heart of this transformation was a man whose name would resonate through the ages: Narmer, also known as Menes. Narmer was a visionary leader, a military strategist, and a symbol of unity. With military might and political cunning, he conquered Lower Egypt and forged an alliance with it, marking the end of centuries of division and the dawn of something extraordinary: the birth of the First Dynasty. The Narmer Palette, a magnificent carved stone artifact, depicts Narmer wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt on one side and the red crown of Lower Egypt on the other, symbolizing the fusion of two powerful kingdoms. This unification marked not just a political victory, but a profound cultural and social shift. Egypt was now one kingdom, with a single ruler at its helm. And with that unity came the promise of a new era, a flourishing civilization. But what made this unification so remarkable? The answer lies in the Nile River, the lifeblood of Egypt. The Nile, which flowed like a thread through the heart of the kingdom, provided Egypt with a unique advantage that no other civilization had at that time: fertile land. Every year, the Nile would flood, depositing nutrient-rich silt onto the surrounding plains. This annual flooding was both a blessing and a challenge. The Egyptians learned to harness this natural phenomenon by creating an irrigation system that allowed them to farm the land efficiently and consistently. They cultivated grains, vegetables, and fruits, and domesticated animals like cattle, sheep, and goats. With agriculture came surplus food, which allowed Egypt to support a growing population and established a stable economy. But it wasn't just farming that set Egypt apart, it was also its strategic location. Egypt was positioned at the crossroads of Africa and the Middle East, making it a hub for trade. Goods flowed into Egypt from Nubia to the south, Mesopotamia to the northeast, and the Mediterranean world to the north. Egypt's merchants traded grain, papyrus, linen, and gold in exchange for luxury items, exotic animals, and other precious materials. This trade network would continue to grow, bringing wealth and influence to the pharaohs and solidifying Egypt's place as a regional power. As Egypt's population grew, so did its need for infrastructure. The unification of Upper and Lower Egypt laid the foundation for what would become one of the most remarkable achievements in human history: monumental architecture. The Egyptians, with their remarkable ingenuity, began to build impressive structures that would stand the test of time. The first monumental stone buildings were mastabas, flat-roofed, rectangular tombs for Egypt's elite. But as Egypt's culture evolved, so too did its architecture. The step pyramid of Djoser, built during the 3rd dynasty by the architect Imhotep, is widely considered the first true pyramid. This marked the beginning of the Egyptians' obsession with creating grand structures, with the ultimate goal being to ensure the immortality of the pharaohs. Along with monumental architecture, the unification of Egypt gave rise to one of the most advanced writing systems the world had ever seen. The Egyptians developed hieroglyphs, a system of writing that combined pictorial symbols with sounds and concepts. Hieroglyphs were used to record religious texts, royal decrees, and historical events on the walls of tombs, temples, and monuments. This system would endure for centuries, becoming one of the most sophisticated writing systems of the ancient world. Papyrus, another Egyptian innovation, became the material of choice for recording written texts. It allowed for the creation of scrolls, which were lighter, more portable, and easier to write on than stone. The priestly class, skilled in reading and writing, played a vital role in maintaining the knowledge of Egypt, preserving its history, and aiding the pharaohs in their reign. With a centralized government in place, Egypt's rulers, the pharaohs, were seen not just as kings but as divine beings, chosen by the gods to rule over the land of Egypt. The pharaoh was the intermediary between the gods and the people, responsible for maintaining Ma'at, the divine order of the universe. This idea of divine kingship would persist throughout Egyptian history, giving the pharaohs an aura of invincibility and power. The unity of Upper and Lower Egypt not only created a powerful political system, but also fostered a culture that embraced the divine. Temples to the gods were built, festivals were held in honor of deities like Ra, the sun god, and Osiris, the god of the afterlife. The pharaohs, through their connection with the gods, were believed to possess the divine right to rule over Egypt's lands, ensuring the prosperity of the people. This unification marked the dawn of the 1st dynasty and set in motion a civilization that would endure for over 3 millennia. But as Egypt prospered, it also faced challenges. What would become of this mighty kingdom? How would it shape the future of the ancient world? The Old Kingdom of Egypt, spanning from 2686 to 2181 BCE, was a time of extraordinary achievement and unparalleled prosperity. Often referred to as the Age of the Pyramids, this era saw Egypt at the height of its power, laying the foundations for a civilization that would last for millennia. This period is most famously associated with the construction of the pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza, which remains one of the most iconic structures ever built by human hands. Standing at a towering height of 481 feet, it was, for nearly 4,000 years, the tallest man-made structure on Earth. Built for Pharaoh Khufu, this monumental tomb was a reflection of the pharaoh's divine power, a testament to his belief in eternal life. The Great Pyramid's construction is nothing short of miraculous. Made of approximately 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2.5 to 15 tons, it was designed with extraordinary precision, aligning perfectly with the cardinal points of the compass. The sheer scale and complexity of this engineering feat continue to baffle historians and architects to this day. But the pyramid was not just a monumental tomb, it was a symbol of the pharaoh's divine authority. During the Old Kingdom, Egypt's pharaohs were seen as gods on earth, their power absolute and unquestioned. The pyramids were not only tombs for these divine rulers but also a means of ensuring their immortality. The belief in the afterlife was fundamental to Egyptian culture, and it was the pharaoh's role to ensure that the divine order was upheld. These monumental structures symbolized not only the pharaoh's power during their lifetime, but also their eternal existence after death. The early pharaohs, such as Djoser, the first to build a pyramid, and Khufu, whose pyramid became the grandest of all, were not merely rulers. they were divine beings who maintained the harmony of the cosmos. Their monumental tombs were designed to reflect their divine stature, while their construction projects, like the Step Pyramid of Djoser, were intended to elevate their status as gods in the eyes of the people. Yet, behind the grandeur of these towering pyramids lay a massive labor force, a well-coordinated army of workers who toiled under the scorching desert sun. Thousands of architects, engineers, masons, and laborers worked tirelessly for decades, carrying out the pharaoh's divine orders. The construction of a pyramid required not only remarkable engineering but also an immense amount of manpower and resources. While the pharaohs were revered as gods, the workers were the unsung heroes who made the pyramids possible. Contrary to the popular misconception that slaves built the pyramids, most of the laborers were likely skilled craftsmen and seasonal workers who came from all corners of Egypt, particularly during the Nile's flood season, when farming work was paused. These workers lived in well-organized workers' villages near the pyramid sites, where they were provided with food, shelter, and a sense of purpose in their work. Their labor was seen as a divine duty, an act of devotion to the gods and to the pharaoh. Archaeological evidence suggests that many workers were well cared for, receiving medical treatment and even being buried near the pyramids in tombs that reflected their status. However, the labor was grueling, and the work was endless. For the laborers, the pyramid construction was not just a job, it was a spiritual journey, one that would ensure their place in the afterlife as well. While the pyramid builders were honored for their work, the Old Kingdom was not without its challenges. Despite the tremendous wealth generated by Egypt's agriculture, the economic system was built on the annual flood of the Nile, which provided fertile soil for crops. But when these floods were inconsistent or failed to occur, the kingdom was faced with devastating consequences, namely, famine. The crops that sustained the population could wither, leading to food shortages, social unrest, and even political instability. Famine was a powerful force in the decline of the Old Kingdom. As resources became scarcer, tensions began to rise. The once unquestioned authority of the pharaohs began to be challenged. Moreover, the growing power of the priestly class and the nobility, who controlled large estates and agricultural lands, began to erode the centralized power of the pharaoh. The Old Kingdom, once a period of unification and grandeur, fell into a state of disunity by the end of the 6th dynasty. The centralized authority of the pharaohs weakened, regional governors, nomarchs, began to assert their independence, and Egypt entered a period of political fragmentation known as the First Intermediate Period. The once mighty pyramids stood as silent witnesses to Egypt's fall from grace, symbols of a golden age that was fading into history. The collapse of the Old Kingdom, burdened by famine, political instability, and the demands of monumental construction, marked the end of an era. But even as the Old Kingdom declined, the legacy of the pyramids endured. These colossal structures would stand for millennia, silent and eternal, a reminder of Egypt's rise to greatness. Today, the pyramids of Giza continue to captivate the world, attracting millions of visitors from all corners of the globe. The monuments of the Old Kingdom endure not only as symbols of ancient Egypt's power, but also as a testament to the unrelenting ambition and vision of a civilization that aspired to the heavens. Despite the fall of the Old Kingdom, Egypt's story was far from over. The country would rise again, in a new era of prosperity and power. But how would Egypt regain its strength? What lessons were learned from the decline of the Old Kingdom? Stay with us as we continue to unravel the mysteries of Egypt's past. Following the chaos and fragmentation of the First Intermediate Period, Egypt entered a new era, a time of restoration and revitalization. This era, known as the Middle Kingdom, spanned from 2055 to 1650 BCE and represented a renaissance for the Egyptian state. Under the leadership of visionary pharaohs like Amenemhat II and Senusret III, Egypt not only regained its stability but also embarked on a path of remarkable growth and prosperity. The Middle Kingdom was a time when Egypt began to recover from the disarray that followed the fall of the Old Kingdom. Amenemhat II, who ascended the throne as the second ruler of the 12th dynasty, was instrumental in establishing political stability. His reign, along with that of his successors, marked the restoration of centralized control, bringing an end to the fragmentation that had plagued Egypt during the intermediate period. Under Amenemhat II and his successor, Senusret III, the economy of Egypt flourished. With the centralization of power, the pharaohs could implement a more efficient tax system, improving the collection of resources and ensuring that the state could support both monumental building projects and the expanding needs of the population. This prosperity was also fueled by the revival of agriculture, bolstered by improved irrigation techniques. Thanks to the annual floods of the Nile, agriculture thrived once again, providing the Egyptian people with the resources they needed to survive and thrive. With a stable food supply, Egypt's population grew, leading to the construction of new towns and cities. Trade played a crucial role in the resurgence of Egypt during the Middle Kingdom. As Egypt's borders expanded, both southward into Nubia and northward into the Levant, the economy prospered. Egypt established important trade routes that linked it with far-off lands, allowing for the exchange of goods such as gold, lapis lazuli, timber, and copper. Egyptian merchants carried grain, papyrus, and linen across the ancient world, while bringing back exotic goods and luxury items in exchange. Nubia, rich in gold and valuable resources, was a key partner in these trade relationships. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom, particularly Senusret III, one of the most powerful and revered rulers of the Middle Kingdom, led successful military campaigns into Nubia, securing Egyptian control over gold mines and other valuable territories. This expansion strengthened Egypt's economy and military influence, ensuring that Egypt's prosperity would continue. However, despite the newfound peace and prosperity, the Middle Kingdom was not without its challenges. As Egypt expanded its borders and its wealth grew, it inevitably attracted the attention of foreign invaders. By the end of the 12th dynasty, Egypt's newfound power was threatened by external forces. Invaders from the east, the Hyksos, began to make their way across the Egyptian borders. The Hyksos were a Semitic people who originated from the Levant region. They had heard of Egypt's wealth and sought to seize control of the fertile Nile Delta. The Hyksos brought with them new technologies that would change the course of Egyptian history. Most notably, they introduced the horse-drawn chariot, a revolutionary military tool that would dramatically alter the dynamics of warfare in the ancient world. With their superior weaponry and tactics, the Hyksos were able to sweep across Egypt, eventually capturing Avaris, the capital of the Delta, and establishing their rule over northern Egypt. The Hyksos reign, though lasting for nearly a century, was marked by cultural assimilation and conflict. While they ruled over Egypt's northern regions, they adopted many Egyptian customs and traditions, including the worship of Egyptian gods and the use of Egyptian architectural styles. But their rule was never fully accepted by the native Egyptians. The native Egyptian rulers of the Theban dynasty in the south resisted the Hyksos invasion, and in the 17th dynasty, a series of powerful Theban pharaohs launched a series of military campaigns to expel the invaders. Finally, under the leadership of Ahmose I, the Egyptians managed to drive the Hyksos out of Egypt, marking the end of their rule and the beginning of the New Kingdom. Although the Middle Kingdom eventually gave way to this new wave of instability, the foundation laid during this period would prove critical to the resurgence of Egypt. The lessons learned in the face of foreign threats, combined with the strength of the Egyptian military and its enduring will, would help Egypt rise from the ashes of the Hyksos invasion and reassert its dominance in the ancient world. The Middle Kingdom may have fallen, but its legacy lived on in the form of a revived Egypt, ready to reclaim its place as one of the most powerful empires the world had ever seen. Egypt's triumph over the Hyksos would set the stage for the New Kingdom, a period of unparalleled wealth, military dominance, and cultural flourishing. But how would Egypt fare in this new age? Stay with us as we continue our journey through the fascinating history of ancient Egypt. When we speak of ancient Egypt's most glorious era, we are speaking of the New Kingdom, the period from 1550 to 1070 BCE, the apex of Egypt's power, influence, and military might. This era, spanning nearly 500 years, witnessed the reigns of some of Egypt's most iconic pharaohs, including Thutmose III, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, and Ramses II. Under their rule, Egypt not only became a dominant military and cultural power but also reached new heights in terms of artistic, architectural, and religious achievement. The new kingdom saw Egypt transform into an empire, with its borders stretching far beyond the Nile Valley, as pharaohs turned their attention to the wealth of foreign lands. It was a time of warriors and visionaries, of grand conquests and profound religious changes. At the forefront of Egypt's military expansion was Thutmose III, often referred to as the Napoleon of Egypt. Thutmose III was a brilliant military strategist, and his reign, which lasted from 1479 to 1425 BCE, marked the peak of Egypt's territorial expansion. Under Thutmose III's leadership, Egypt expanded its borders to their greatest extent. He led 17 military campaigns in the Near East, securing Egypt's dominance over vast territories, from the Levant to Mesopotamia. His most famous victory was at the Battle of Megiddo, where he defeated a coalition of Canaanite forces, solidifying Egypt's control over Palestine and Syria. This victory was so significant that Thutmose III marked the event in the walls of his temple of Ammonius at Karnak, in a series of reliefs detailing the battle's strategy and aftermath. He established Egypt as the undisputed superpower in the region, wielding influence over both Nubia to the south and the Near East to the north. Thutmose III's military prowess earned him the title of Egypt's most successful military leader, and under his reign, Egypt's wealth grew exponentially, thanks to its control over key trade routes and tribute from conquered lands. But as Egypt was expanding its borders and wealth under Thutmose III, a new ruler would rise, who would forever alter the course of Egypt's religious and cultural history. That ruler was Akhenaten. Akhenaten, originally named Amenhotep IV, ascended to the throne around 1353 BCE. Unlike his predecessors, Akhenaten introduced one of the most radical changes to Egyptian society, the revolutionary idea of monotheism. In his reign, Akhenaten shifted the focus of Egyptian worship away from the traditional pantheon of gods to the exclusive worship of the sun god Aten. He moved the capital of Egypt to Akhenaten, modern-day Amarna, a city built specifically for the worship of Aten. The radical shift not only angered the powerful priesthood of Ammonius but also created widespread unrest among the population, who had long worshipped multiple gods. Akhenaten's religious revolution, though brief, would leave a lasting impact on Egypt. His attempts to reshape the nation's religion sparked intense cultural upheaval, with temples to the traditional gods being abandoned and priests losing power. Despite this, his vision of a single god, Aten, was not embraced by the people, and after his death, the traditional worship of Ammonius was swiftly restored. Even in art, Akhenaten's reign was a departure from the norms of Egyptian iconography. Statues and reliefs depicted the royal family in a more naturalistic style, with exaggerated, almost alien-like features. This marked a stark contrast to the rigid, idealized forms of earlier Egyptian art. Following Akhenaten's death, Egypt returned to its traditional gods, and the throne passed to a young boy, Tutankhamun. Ascending the throne at just 9 years old, Tutankhamun's reign would be short, lasting only 10 years until his untimely death at around 18. Although Tutankhamun's reign was largely overshadowed by the power of the priests, it was his tomb that would leave an indelible mark on history. In 1922, Howard Carter discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun in the Valley of the Kings, a discovery that would reveal untold treasures and provide an unparalleled glimpse into the opulence and grandeur of ancient Egypt. Tutankhamun's tomb contained over 5,000 artifacts, including jewelry, furniture, weapons, and an intricate golden death mask. His tomb was the richest ever found in Egypt, offering valuable insights into royal burial practices and the wealth of the Egyptian monarchy. While Tutankhamun himself may have been a relatively minor figure in Egyptian history, his tomb's discovery captured the world's imagination and cemented his place in history. His death mask, a masterpiece of Egyptian craftsmanship, remains one of the most iconic symbols of Egypt's ancient grandeur. No discussion of the New Kingdom would be complete without the mention of Ramses II, often called Ramses the Great. Reigning for an astounding 66 years from 1279 to 1213 BCE, Ramses II was one of Egypt's most powerful and prolific pharaohs. Ramses II is perhaps best known for his military campaigns and his extensive building projects. His most famous military achievement was his battle against the Hittites at the Battle of Kadesh. Though the battle ended in a stalemate, Ramses portrayed it as a great victory, commissioning detailed reliefs of the battle in temples throughout Egypt. Ramses II was also a master builder. His most remarkable construction projects include the temples at Abu Simbel, carved into the side of a mountain, and the massive Ramesseum in Thebes. These temples, dedicated to the gods and to his own deification, were designed to celebrate his legacy as both a king and a god. The reigns of these remarkable pharaohs marked the zenith of Egypt's power and influence. Yet, despite their extraordinary achievements, the new kingdom would not last forever. What challenges would Egypt face as it entered a new era? Stay with us as we continue to explore the rise and fall of one of history's greatest civilizations. Despite the glory and grandeur of the new kingdom, Egypt's unparalleled power began to wane during the later years of the 19th and 20th dynasties. The mighty empire that had once stretched from the Nile to the furthest reaches of the Near East began to crack under the pressure of internal strife, external invasions, and shifting alliances. The pharaoh's control weakened, and the mighty empire fragmented. As Egypt entered the 20th dynasty, a time once marked by the reign of the powerful Ramses II, it began to show signs of decay. Pharaoh Ramses III, the last great ruler of this dynasty, ascended the throne in 1186 BCE, inheriting a kingdom that was already strained by economic difficulties, political corruption, and overextended military campaigns. Ramses III, despite being a valiant warrior, faced challenges that his predecessors had not. Though he successfully repelled invasions by the Sea Peoples, a group of mysterious raiders from the Mediterranean, his reign was marked by internal rebellion and political intrigue. The Sea Peoples, having conquered vast areas in the eastern Mediterranean, attacked Egypt's borders, forcing Ramses III to defend his kingdom in one of the most famous battles in Egyptian history. Despite a hard-fought victory at the Battle of the Delta, the Sea Peoples' invasions weakened Egypt, both militarily and economically. The war drained the empire's resources, and Egypt found itself unable to recover from the losses sustained during these raids. Simultaneously, internal strife plagued the kingdom, including a palace conspiracy in which Ramses III was assassinated, an event that marked the beginning of the decline of the 20th dynasty. After Ramses III's death, Egypt spiraled into political chaos. Successive rulers struggled to maintain control, while the priests of the god Ammonius grew in power, further eroding the pharaoh's authority. The kingdom's centralized power weakened, and the people, once proud and loyal to their divine rulers, began to lose faith in the pharaohs. By the time of the Third Intermediate Period, which began around 1070 BCE, Egypt was no longer the unified empire it once had been. The great, centralized state that had dominated the ancient world was now a shadow of its former self. The once unified Egypt was now divided into smaller, regional states, each ruled by different factions and powers. The Third Intermediate Period was marked by division and instability. The pharaohs, who once ruled all of Egypt with absolute power, were now confined to the Nile Valley, while foreign powers and local rulers controlled the Nile Delta, the western oases, and even parts of Nubia. Libyan chieftains, including the Meshwesh people, began to establish their own dynasties, while the priests of Ammonius held significant influence, controlling vast estates and lands. The Libyan dynasty, which ruled from the 22nd dynasty onwards, represented the beginning of a new era of fragmented power. Though Egypt remained culturally unified, politically it was no longer the mighty empire it had once been. Egypt's southern borders, once secure under the new kingdom, were now threatened by Nubian kingdoms to the south. Egypt's grip on Nubia was weakening, and by the 25th dynasty, the Nubians would rule Egypt as pharaohs. The rise of the Kushite kings from Nubia marked a new chapter in Egypt's long history, yet it also represented the loss of Egypt's political independence. As Egypt continued to fracture, it eventually became a vassal state to the rising foreign empires that had begun to dominate the ancient world. First came the Assyrians, who, in the 7th century BCE, invaded Egypt and imposed their control over the region. Egypt was forced to pay tribute to the Assyrian kings, marking the first step in a long series of foreign occupations. The Assyrians were soon followed by the Persians, whose king Cambyses II conquered Egypt in 525 BCE, adding it to the vast Persian Empire. Egypt was reduced to a mere province, governed by Persian satraps, and its once great military power was diminished. But Egypt's story did not end with the Persians. In the late 4th century BCE, the Greek Empire led by Alexander the Great swept into Egypt. The Egyptians, tired of Persian rule, welcomed Alexander as their liberator. Alexander founded the city of Alexandria, which would later become one of the most important centers of culture and knowledge in the ancient world. Upon his death, Egypt was ruled by the Ptolemies, a Greek dynasty that would oversee Egypt until the rise of Rome. The final blow to Egypt's political independence came in 30 BCE, when the last of the Ptolemies, Cleopatra VII, committed suicide after the defeat of her forces by the Romans under Octavian, later Augustus Caesar. With Cleopatra's death, Egypt was absorbed into the Roman Empire, forever ending its status as an independent kingdom. From the time of the Old Kingdom to the rise of the Ptolemies, Egypt's power, wealth, and cultural influence shaped the ancient world. But even as Egypt fell under the control of foreign powers, its legacy endured. The monumental structures, art, and wisdom of the Egyptians continue to inspire and fascinate the world today. Egypt may have lost its political independence, but its influence would never be erased. Egypt's ancient civilization, with its profound contributions to science, art, architecture, and religion, remains one of the most enduring legacies of human history. Though its empire may have crumbled, the echoes of its greatness continue to resonate through time. Though the ancient Egyptian civilization eventually fell, its influence has endured for millennia. Across the world, in museums, libraries, and even in the foundations of modern architecture and science, the legacy of Egypt is alive. The pyramids of Giza, the tombs of pharaohs, and the wonders of Luxor still stand as awe-inspiring symbols of Egypt's greatness, drawing millions of visitors every year. These monumental structures are not just remnants of an ancient civilization, they are a testament to Egypt's eternal presence in the collective human consciousness. Every year, people from every corner of the globe travel to Egypt, eager to stand before the Great Pyramid of Giza, the last of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still standing. The sheer scale of the pyramids, the precision of their construction, and the mystery surrounding their purpose continue to captivate both historians and visitors alike. These colossal monuments were more than just tombs for the pharaohs. They were grand statements of power, divinity, and eternal life. The Valley of the Kings, the final resting place of pharaohs such as Tutankhamun and Ramses II, holds secrets that continue to shape our understanding of ancient Egypt. The treasures found within these tombs, golden masks, intricately crafted jewelry, and elaborate burial goods, are windows into the wealth and spiritual practices of the Egyptians. These discoveries have provided invaluable insights into the rituals surrounding death and the afterlife, which were central to Egyptian culture. Perhaps no discovery has been as iconic as that of Tutankhamun's tomb by Howard Carter in 1922. The wealth within Tutankhamun's tomb, largely untouched for over 3,000 years, revealed a civilization that had mastered not only the art of construction but also the intricate details of craftsmanship, creating items of immense beauty and sophistication. The death mask Tutankhamun, made of solid gold, remains one of the most recognized symbols of ancient Egypt's enduring legacy. The achievements of ancient Egypt, its art, architecture, and written language, continue to inspire and fascinate us, even in the modern era. The monumental architecture of the Egyptians, from the pyramids to the temples of Luxor, set a standard for scale and grandeur that is still unmatched today. The meticulous precision with which the Egyptians constructed their buildings and sculptures speaks to their mastery of engineering and an understanding of space and geometry far beyond their time. The temples of Luxor and Karnak, dedicated to gods like Ammonius Ra, showcase the Egyptians' reverence for their deities. These structures were designed not just to honor the gods, but to express the pharaoh's divine connection with the divine. The massive stone pillars, grand statues, and intricate hieroglyphic carvings that adorn these temples continue to inspire awe for their craftsmanship and scale. These temples were not just religious centers, they were symbols of Egypt's political and spiritual power. Central to the Egyptian worldview was the written word, a tool that the Egyptians used to document their history, religious beliefs, and achievements. The Egyptian system of hieroglyphs, a complex system of pictorial symbols, continues to be one of the most remarkable writing systems in history. Hieroglyphs were used on everything from monumental walls to papyrus scrolls, and they played a crucial role in preserving Egyptian culture for future generations. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799 unlocked the secrets of Egyptian writing, allowing modern scholars to finally decipher the ancient language. This breakthrough opened the door to a deeper understanding of Egypt's religious texts, royal decrees, and historical records. Today, the study of hieroglyphs provides scholars with key insights into the inner workings of one of the world's oldest and most influential civilizations. Perhaps no symbol is as instantly recognizable as the Great Sphinx of Giza, the colossal stone statue with the body of a lion and the face of a pharaoh. Its mysterious presence has intrigued historians, archaeologists, and tourists for centuries. The Sphinx stands as a monument to Egypt's architectural genius, but also as a mystery that has yet to be fully solved. Scholars continue to debate the purpose of the Sphinx, its age, and whether it was originally built as a symbol of royal power, a guardian of the pyramids, or something else entirely. Its face is widely believed to represent Pharaoh Khafre, but many questions about its construction, its alignment with the stars, and its purpose remain unanswered. The Sphinx endures as one of Egypt's greatest mysteries, inviting speculation and wonder for generations. The grandeur of Egypt's past is not confined to its monuments and artifacts. The cultural legacy of ancient Egypt has influenced art, architecture, and thought across the ages. From the Renaissance artists who were inspired by Egyptian sculptures to the modern fascination with Egyptology, the wonders of Egypt continue to shape our world. Napoleon Bonaparte's campaign in Egypt in the late 18th century sparked a wave of Egyptomania, a fascination with Egyptian art and culture that influenced architecture, fashion, and even literature. The discovery of Egypt's treasures and the unveiling of its ancient wonders captured the imagination of the West, leading to an enduring interest in all things Egyptian. Today, Egypt's influence can be seen in countless works of art and entertainment. From the timeless allure of films like The Mummy to books, comics, and even video games, Egyptian symbolism and mythology continue to inspire creators across the globe. Egypt's grandeur remains etched in the annals of history. The pyramids, the Sphinx, the tombs of the pharaohs, and the wealth of knowledge passed down through their writings have left behind a civilization that will never be forgotten. Even as the sands of time continue to shift, the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt remains a touchstone for understanding the power, ingenuity, and spirituality of one of the world's greatest civilizations. The Egyptian civilization may have faded from the political stage, but its achievements live on in every corner of the world. A civilization that mastered the secrets of the heavens, built monuments that would last for eternity, and created a culture that continues to captivate the human spirit. Egypt is not just a part of history, but a living legacy. If this journey inspired you, show your support by liking this video and subscribing for more interesting stories from history. And in the comments, tell me which era, civilization, or untold story you'd love us to explore next. Together, let's keep the past alive to inspire the future.